Hey folks, this is Jake Davis doing an old school wrestling video for you today, and I kind of just realized I woke up too early. Um, the whole wrestling. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about, or this month I'm going to cover WCW NWO Slamboree 1998, held on May 17th in the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts. 11,900 and 592 fans were in attendance. I wanted to pick this show for a couple reasons, but the main reason when it all comes down to is the crowd. I'm going to mention this crowd several times as the show goes on. Because, wow. Our commentators are Tony Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, and Mike Tenay. 10 matches on the card, so let's get matches. So let's get to it. Our opening bout is for the World Television Championship, Fighting Fit fucking Finlay, taking on Chris Benoit. The whole storyline in here is that Benoit and Booker T have been feuding for a good month or two over the television title. They had several draws and a controversial finish at Spring Stampede. They were going to fight Slamboree, but then Finlay throws a wrench into that whole plan and ends up beating Booker T on TV for the TV title. Now he's a TV champion. Benoit was able to beat Booker in a singles match on this title shot, and that's the match right now. I mentioned the crowd, and yes, you can tell by this opening match, the opening sequence, literally the first time there's a knife edge chop in the match, like moments into it, crowd goes insane. Insane. They're white hot. They're ready for some fucking wrestling. It's a solid back and forth match. Good grappling, nice intense, stiff hitting shit that you would expect from these two guys. Booker T comes down to ringside. He was in his great suit era, period. And he's standing at ringside watching the match, but he causes a bit of distraction. This one spot, Benoit goes for a suicide dive. And, and Finlay just smacks him in the head with a chair out of midair. God, that was scary. Distraction costs Benoit because while he's paying attention to Booker T on the floor, he gets a baseball slide to the back of the head, tossed back into the ring, tries to fight back just a little bit more, but gets caught in Finlay's tombstone pile driver, and Finlay retains the television title. This is a very good match. Exactly the kind of match you expect from these two guys. And, this storyline will continue for another month, or maybe even two. And even get revisited in WWF. This would lead to the famous Best of 7 series between Booker and Benoit, which was redone in WWF, I think, in 2005, I think it was, maybe 2006. Up next is a grudge match. We're kind of a pseudo grudge match. We got Lex Luger taking on Brian Adams, who is Vincent in his corner. Brian Adams had recently come to WCW, and recently joined the NWO. Lex Luger was, blood feud with all the NWO, but his particular beef right now is the betrayal of Scott Steiner over Rick Steiner, them playing into his emotions after breaking Buff Bagwell's neck, which really happened, and them just basically tormenting Rick. So the match at the pay-per-view to kind of push this story forward is Lex Luger and Vincent and Brian Adams. Okay. It's these two. I've always been a big fan of Lex Luger. I think he's very, very much unappreciated. But Brian Adams is just as boring as everybody says. I've always said that, if the fact that Crush and Doink the Clown is the best match at WrestleMania 9 should tell you all you need to know about WrestleMania 9. But yeah, this isn't a good match. Eventually, Lex gets him in the torture rack and wins. Like, Brian Adams had a fucking chance at all beating Lex Luger. So up next is we kind of got two matches in one segment. It is a 15-man battle royale to determine the number one contender for the World Cruiserweight Championship immediately after this match, he will challenge Chris Jericho for the Cruiserweight title. Now, this is one of the highlights of the show. No way getting around it. Jericho does this. The whole storyline here is Jericho had been feuding with Dean Malenko, with Dean not even being on TV for about 2 months. Mocking his dead father, claiming he had ended his career, Dean's career. And this feud would go on straight up, I think, till August. This was one of the best feuds WCW ever had, to tell you the truth. And a lot of it was really personal and violent. When they did get in the ring and they fought, they beat the shit out of each other. And there's another great feud like that coming down next on this. But anyhow, Jericho does the ring entrances for all the guys. He's standing up on the stage. And he's got these funny little gags for each guy, and it's Jericho. It's pure Jericho. The only one of any of them who gets any actual shred of respect is Marty Jannetty, and that's not a surprise. Oh, by the way, the competitors are Ciclope, Juventud Guerrero, we'll get that list of them here, Damien, El Dandy, El Grillo, Chavo Guerrero Jr., as I said, Marty Jannetty, Evan Courageous, Billy Kidman, Lenny Lang, Psychosis, Silver King, Super Calo, Johnny Swinger, and Villano 4. By far the best Villano. It's a battle royale, you know. There's lots of dudes in the ring, but there's not a lot of space to do big cruiserweight, good lucha things. And then there's the fact that it's a WCW battle royale, which means you can be eliminated by pinfall or submission, which means you got a ref in there too, running around in the action. Eventually it comes down to Ciclope and Juventud Guerrera. And there's a stare down. Everybody's rooting for Juvi. Everybody's expecting Juvi. And then Juvi fist bumps Ciclope and jumps out of the ring. Eliminates himself. Ciclope wins. Crowd's like, what the hell? Jericho's running down the ring, about to jump the guy from behind. Ciclope takes off his mask, and it's Dean Malenko. And let me tell you something. In the modern age of post and even pre-pandemic Thunderdome shit, WWE's piped in fake crowd noise, like that thunderous reaction 2 weeks ago Asuka got for her return. I mean, it was even real because we don't know now, because it's so much about the product. It's just so diluted and fake. It's wrestling. It's already phony as shit. But the reaction of the crowd should be, that's sacred. Treat it pure. I mean, this is what you have to earn. That crowd goes insane. They just go absolutely insane. The roof pops off, the fucking thunderous roar, and it just goes throughout the match. Jericho has to defend it against Dean now. They have a brawl. They have a fucking brawl. Not your typical cruiserweight style of a match. They have a fight. The finish is both guys are fighting on the top rope. Dean's able to catch him in the fireman carry gutbuster, and then locks him in the Texas Cloverleaf and wins. Finally wins the Cruiserweight Championship. This was, like I said, will just be another chapter in their rivalry. Jericho would end up doing his legendary going to Washington, D.C., trying to get Bill Clinton to help him overturn the ruling. Oh, man, if you've never seen it, you've never seen that, you've got to see WCW Thunder, something like that. Jericho going to Washington, D.C. to try to find the Ed Strangler Lewis loophole so he can get the Cruiserweight title back without actually fighting Malenko. It's great. But yeah, it's phenomenal. It's a great feel-good moment. It's definitely a must-see moment for wrestling fans. Up next is the Bowery Death Match. Raven versus Diamond Dallas Page. Another blood feud. Absolutely great rivalry here. These guys have been attacking each other. Raven stole the U.S. title first physically, and then literally in a match just to lose it immediately to Goldberg. Page famously, I don't think the WWE even has this on the network. They might. But the footage of DDP bursting into the Flock's locker room, beating everybody up, and then dragging Raven by a noose out to the ring and throwing him over the top rope like he's lynching the guy. That shit got violent. That's dark. That's grim, man. Uh, the excuse me. But so the stipulation here is a steel cage match, but it's the last man standing rules. And there's weapons hanging from the roof and shit like this, and the Flock end up getting involved, but everybody takes a diamond cutter. Raven, great diamond. Billy Kidman swinging from the ceiling of the cage, gets caught in a diamond cutter. That's great. Eventually, it's the diamond cutter on Raven, puts him down for the 10 count, and Page wins. Immediately after the match, one of Raven's riot guys, riot squad dudes, cronies, starts handcuffing all the Flock members to the cage and beating the shit out of him with a nightstick. Takes off his mask. It's Chris Kanyon is at first in it, takes off the right gear mask. He's wearing his old Mortis mask. Takes that off. He's Chris Kanyon. And this would build up. See, I've talked about this before. I was watching this at this time, like every week. And I remember Chris Kanyon going after Raven, kind of getting caught up into a three-way rivalry with Raven and Saturn that would have a triangle match at Road Wild, which was good. But then all of a sudden, Kanyon joins Raven and becomes a bad guy, and for the life of me, I don't remember how that happened. Anyhow, next up is we have a freedom match. Eddie Guerrero versus the Ultimo Dragon. Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck yes. The stipulation here is Dragon is actually fighting for the honor of Chavo Jr. Chavo Jr. lost a match to Eddie some time back, and since then has become Eddie's personal servant. Dragon is, if he wins, Chavo gets his freedom. Dragon is Chavo's at in Eddie's corner for this match. Of course, he's 100% behind the Dragon, but ends up causing a distracting the Dragon. Aslan gets kicked off the apron. Eddie catches Dragon with a brainbuster, frog splash, and win. After the match, Chavo attacks the Dragon and kisses his uncle on the cheek before they leave. This would be the beginning of Chavo Guerrero's great turn into being a psycho, when he got to show off his personality, and get to be a character, and not just another white meat baby face. But this was, I ran through it there, but yeah, this is a good fucking match. It's Eddie Guerrero and Ultimo Dragon. It's as good as it sounds, much like the Benoit Finlay match earlier. Apologies for fast. Up next was a U.S. title match. It's scheduled to be a gauntlet match of Goldberg versus all of the Flock, except Raven. But Saturn steps up and says, no, I'm the one that's going to beat Goldberg. It's me versus Goldberg one-on-one, and that plus Kanyon beat the shit out of all those guys earlier. Yeah, they need a break. Anyhow, it's Goldberg and Saturn, man. I do think this match goes a touch long, but look, man, Goldberg was still a rookie. They were trying to see if they could get long matches out of him. The finish is great. Saturn jumps off a steel chair and drop kicks Goldberg and his shoulder blades in the corner. Goes for again, but Goldberg pops up, whips around, catches him in midair as he's coming off the chair with a spear, jackhammer, and wins. Great thing about the fucking slow-mo replay catches. After the spear, Goldberg jumps up and does this thing, and he jumps up and he stomps down on the fucking steel chair, and it just breaks. Fucking Goldberg, man, don't mess with Godzilla. Oh, one thing I did mean to say about the show that kind of threw me off. This may be the only time I've ever watched a WCW pay-per-view, at least since I've been doing these retro things, that didn't open with Mean Gene Okerlund pimping the hotline 1-900-909-9900. Kids, get your parents' permission to call. I don't know. Almost doesn't feel like a WCW show without that. For some reason to me, it's essential to the experience as Tony Schiavone. Okay, so up next is a famous thing. Eric Bischoff had famously challenged Vince McMahon to an actual fight, a shoot fight, at the pay-per-view for this show. Vince McMahon, WWE's been criticized for this, like here, like for false marketing, false promoting. They look all throughout the show. They're telling you, look, it's very unlikely Vince McMahon is going to come here. I mean, he's little to gain, a lot to lose. Yeah. I mean, look, Bischoff won the fight. He put the challenge out on Monday, Thursday on Thunder. They acknowledged that McMahon had sent an official letter to Bischoff saying, pass. But they're, fucking cameras, keeping an eye out for limos. They got a dressing room set. And I've heard Bischoff talk about this, that it was all legit. He told people that if Vince does show up, treat him like a VIP. Because he is. Vince fucking McMahon. He had treat the whole thing very cordial and respectful. Extending an olive branch and kicking the ass at the same time, but this is business. And of course, Vince didn't show up. Eric comes to the ring, talks a little bit about how he really wishes Vince would have done it. Fucking Michael Buffer with this. His entrance for McMahon is like, a man who in his own mind is the biggest star of World Wrestling Federation. Like, what? I mean, they're just like getting really into the Mr. McMahon evil boss character that time. So yeah, there's some truth to that. Anyhow, Mickey J counts out Vince, calls it a forfeit, and we move on to our proper double main event. First off, there's a grudge match between Bret the Hitman Hart and Macho Man Randy Savage. Again, another match on the show that just looks nuclear on page. And yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, sure, these guys probably would have had a better match 5 years earlier, or even 2 years earlier, when Bret still had his heart in it and everything. But this is a good match. It's the first time, I think, only time they ever fought on pay-per-view. To tell you the truth, this probably should have been the main event at WrestleMania 9. But anyhow. So the whole setup here was Savage beat Sting for the world title at the last pay-per-view. Becoming the first member of the NWO to win the world title who wasn't Hogan. Hogan didn't appreciate this. Him and Savage had been at each other's throats pretty much all year long. Challenged Savage to a match for the title that night and beat him due to a heel turn from Bret Hart, who didn't officially join the NWO till like Christmas of '99. Right before he retired. Seriously, like right before he retired, he joined the NWO. So Bret's turned heel and he's betrayed Savage. And in this betrayal of Savage, this is also what has launched the Wolfpack. Loyalties of the NWO splitting apart, and the Wolfpack aren't faces yet. That won't come until they ran out and they saved Sting one night. That was after this, but yeah, they're still heels if they're fighting WCW guys, but they're faces against the New World Order. So this is the dawn of the new Wolfpack here. And this is a grudge match. And it's a very good match. Piper just lets it go. Fight to the crowd. They fight on the floor. They use some weapons. Miss Elizabeth just jiggles her lovely self down to ringside. And gets in the ring, gets in Piper's face, shoves Piper. Piper's getting distracted. Gets clocked in the back of the head by some brass knucks. The wrestling version of brass knucks was just a fucking ball of tape wrapped around somebody's knuckles. Punch him in the back of the head. Hulk Hogan comes ringside, and it's a reminder, pay-per-view event. Hulk Hogan is the World Heavyweight Champion, and his big appearance at the show is a run-in. No, but why should the World Champion have to work at the pay-per-view? Why do you even have him there if you're not going to wrestle? He runs down. He grabs Savage's knee, smashes it into the ring post. Bret locks in the sharpshooter. Piper comes too. Savage. It's not really sure if Savage. I mean, I was a bit confused because it says here on Wikipedia that the official ruling is Piper disqualified Savage because he sees Savage holding the brass knucks. But it looks like Savage is also tapping out at the same time. I mean, the commentators say that's what it looks like to them. But either way, Bret wins this match, even though the fucking weird ass finish. Hogan shouldn't have been involved. Liz had turned heel here and joined the New World Order and betrayed Savage again. But that's not made clear. It's the finish is screwy, kind of textbook 90s war era, and also textbook WCW. Anyhow, it's time for a main event. It's time for a main event for the World Tag Team Championships. The Outsiders, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash with the American Dream. That's the Rose, baby. Oh yeah, you know it. Taking on the team of Sting and the Giant. Now, this challenge was laid out after Kevin Nash cost Sting the world title at Spring Stampede. Nash and Hall had not defended the tag team titles since winning them, I think, at this point, back at like Super Brawl. So, Sting hates these two guys. Figured he had kindred hatred with the Giant, and they decided to go after the top champs. With the few actual promos Sting cut during this time of his career, when he challenged for this thing, so some love and homage to Arn Anderson and everything. It's good. But right before the pay-per-view hits, Giant turns heel and rejoins the New World Order. So the big question is, can Sting trust his partner? Is Scott Hall going to show up? And, all this intrigue going into it. Now, first entrance is for the New World Order. Now, Dusty Rhodes walks out through that curtain, and Kevin Nash walks out through the curtain sound on either side of the stage. The crowd's happy. They're cheering. And then, oh my God, Scott Hall comes through the curtain. Now, we just lost Scott Hall not even 2 months ago. It was absolutely tragic. And I ain't going to sit here and tell you I didn't mourn. It sucked. That sucked when Scott passed. And this was such a feel-good moment, though. He walks through that curtain, and it's like, I can't even describe it. The crowd is insane for Scott Hall. He gets in there, he does his survey, and now they're not there for WCW, they're not there for the NWO, they're not there for the Wolfpack. This is 11,592 people, and every single person is there to see Scott Hall. It was, I don't know. That was touching. It was a touching moment. And tell you the truth, that moment is kind of why I wanted to watch the show. This is why I wanted to revisit this particular show. The match itself is, it's more about the intrigue. Who's going to turn on who, when's the turn going to come. Dusty Rhodes, the finish comes, Dusty puts one of the tag title belts on the apron, distracts the referee. Kevin Nash is going for the jackknife on Giant. Good luck, bro. Going to break his neck again. And Scott Hall hits Nash in the back of the head with the title belt. Giant rolls over, covers him, and Sting and the Giant are the tag team champions. Scott Hall literally goes to hand his title belt over to Sting, and Sting's just in shock. And the show goes off the air with the three NWO guys celebrating over a knocked out Nash. They put a NWO shirt over Nash's head, and Sting just kind of like standing there like a man in no country, but fuck, I'm a champ now. That's my partner. What the hell's going on? It was cool. It was a really cool, intriguing show, and had an interesting ending. White hot crowd, and an ending that genuinely had you in a mood. Well, hell, what's going to happen tomorrow night on Nitro? I love that. I love this show. It's a great show. It is a great WCW show. One I highly, highly recommend. There's not a bad match on the card. And listen, did you hear the fucking matches I ran out for you? Eddie versus Dragon. Finlay versus Benoit. Malenko versus Jericho. Bucking DDP versus Raven. This is a Savage and Hart. This is a huge card. A great show. A great, great show. Cannot recommend anybody see this show more. And yeah, man, I miss wrestling crowds like that. The modern day wrestling crowds, I'm not saying modern day people don't love wrestling, but so much of modern day wrestling is this fake insider smart mark shit. Like this, what I'm doing now. It's awful. It's ruining wrestling. But, man, when you go back there and you see the 90s, seeing the big, big boom, and there's thousands of people, and you know that there's not one person there who'd rather be somewhere else. I miss it. And I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I'm Jake Davis, and I'll catch you on the fly.